Ta-da! Here we are. Hello, hello, everyone, and welcome to Passion in Progress. I am Justine Broker, and I am joined by Amanda Spencer today and Zoe. And I am so excited for today's conversation because it's something very near and dear to my heart as well. And I know that I have a lot of mom friends, not even just mamas, but people who love little ones that are in the education system, homeschooled, whatever it may be. I think you're really, really going to love what Amanda is going to share with us today. So, with that, would you go ahead, tell us who you are and what it is you do?
Yeah, so my name is Amanda Spencer. I am a single mom of two very active boys. I'm a foster bird mom. We're going to fail her for a second one. Yes, we're
Oh,
very happy about that. I'm a nurse full time, and I have loved blogging and writing for years and years and years, and finally just turned that into what I think is probably the project that I'm most passionate about of any of them so far, and that's the Radical Agenda website and planner, and that's
yes,
a
yes,
play
and
on just
and I have that tagged. So
yay.
after this live stream, everyone go check it out because I was doing that before we met up for the live stream, and I'm so excited. So, how was the radical agenda planner born?
So it's a really funny story. Actually, it started with a Facebook post and a pun because my friends and I were talking on Facebook. We were, friends from college. We went to a Baptist university with the coolest professor ever. So Dr. Butler, if you are watching, I love you forever. You're the best. And but he taught us more of like the well-rounded approach to history and the full story for things. And we were just, all three of us had been in his classes before, and we were just talking. We're like, it's so ridiculous that telling the full story of things is now considered radical. So like different things in our school district, my school district, the ones that my kids will go to, made the news last year for just completely losing their minds at a meeting about what was going to be included or excluded in the curriculum for history. And so we were just like, yeah, it's such a radical agenda telling the truth. And I was like, guys, I'm going to make a planner and it's going to be called the Radical Agenda. Get it? And I was just like, just off the top of my head. And then actually I was like, actually, that's a really damn good idea. I kind of like this. How do you make a planner? And so then I started like doing all the, the DIY entrepreneur stuff of your YouTubing and your Google searching, and you're doing all these things of like trying to do this planner. And so then I have a planner and I had to wait on it. I started it. That comment was in June of last year. And I was in the middle of my divorce, and I was told by my lawyer that I can't like launch anything until the divorce is final, because then I'd have to potentially give him some of the profits going forward for the rest of my life. I was like, I'm not doing that.
Mm.
So I started, I couldn't launch it until January. And that's kind of awful for a planner. Everybody has theirs by January already, usually. And so then I was like, well, how am I going to even market this? Because I am self-publishing on Amazon. And then I was like, so it's dumb to have a whole landing page and like have a whole website that I pay for that's dedicated to just like, oh, you're here, now go to Amazon. And
Right.
then I was like, well, what could I put there? And my kids and I, since last year, have been reading all these books from the library in the kids' biography section. Our library is in the deep middle of a red town. So they have a lot of read audiobooks, but my God, their kids biography section is impeccable. It is so diverse. It is so like inclusive and honest. Like all the books that we were reading were like, this person experienced racism. This person was treated badly because of their skin color. This person experienced, like the anti-Semitism. Like we read Ruth Bader Ginsburg's biography, and it was talking about how she was treated badly when she was a child because she was Jewish. And like it was really cool to start like showing my kids like these are issues these have been issues for a long time. And we're not just going to be like, oh, Jackie Robinson, yeah, he broke the color barrier. He's amazing. No, we're going to like one of the stories that we read was a biography about was called The United States versus Jackie Robinson. And it's about how before he even broke the color barrier, and 11 years before Rosa Parks refused to move off the bus, he legally sat because the military buses were integrated at that point. He legally sat where he wanted to, and someone told him to move, and he wouldn't because he knew his rights. And he ended up getting called before a court martial, and like all these people were lying about him. And then I don't know what happened, but somehow they all started telling the truth and admitting that they were lying to him, and he, was exonerated. But like, these are stories that aren't told. I'm 33 and I didn't know this until I read a kid's biography. And it's just like, my family's a huge baseball family. And why didn't I know this before? Like, of course I knew about Jackie Robinson, that part.
Right.
Not,
Yeah.
like, I really wanted my kids to get the whole story of like, did you know that the gas masks that saved millions of lives in World War I were invented by a Black man?
I didn't. No.
Yeah, we found that out from a biography that we found.
Wow.
And it was just like, these people are important and they have important stories to tell. And they're really, really important parts of our history that we're just ignoring to just be like, here is an example of Black excellence. And we're going to ignore all the things that he went through before that.
Right. Yeah. And I've had a lot of conversations with people after George Floyd was murdered at his year anniversary, because the city's is about an hour from us. So it's very close to home. We've been to George Floyd Memorial. It's it just really, really hit close to home for us. And so at school on the year anniversary, the governor asked that every school acknowledge George Floyd, have a moment of silence, have conversations in the classroom. And Justin went to get Peyton from school, and Peyton's 14, and he knew enough to say that something was wrong because people were refusing to talk about it. People were refusing to acknowledge it. Parents, teachers, students were making comments. And it really bothered him. It really, really bothered him. And so I wrote a Facebook post, and I had a lot of people who were like, my kid doesn't need to know about racism. I don't want to, their minds are innocent. How do you take that when people say that to you?
I think it's well intentioned. I think people want to say that we're like creating this better world, but we can't create a better world if we don't know where our foundation is. And unfortunately, our foundation is on systemic racism from the ground up. I mean, even just Juneteenth is like, yes, that is something worth celebrating. However, it was a year and a half after they were officially freed by the Emancipation Proclamation. It's just like, I think it's along the same lines as I don't see color. It's like people really want to think the best of themselves, and they want to think the best of their kids and think that like, oh, we're raising colorblind kids. And unfortunately, that's just not helpful to the situation. And I'm like, yeah, my kids are going to know about racism because they're going to know like how people are treated badly because of things that, you don't choose your skin color.
Yeah.
And so we talk about it openly of like, yes, people have been for years treated very badly. And unfortunately, we're not that far away from it.
Right. I know it. And it's still so thick. It's still so present. And it brings us into privilege, the privilege to not have to talk to our kids about racism and so, yeah, I'm really, I have goosebumps. My heart is like so in this topic. So I'm just so grateful you're here.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's definitely a humbling statement. Like thinking about privilege, like I don't have to tell my kid that no, you should not wear your hood up when you're
yeah,
going out. Like always keep your hands where you can see them. Don't put them in pockets. Like my friends have Black kids and they have to have those conversations. And I hate that for them, that they have to have these safety conversations with them just to make sure their kid comes back.
I know.
And
Yeah.
I mean, it's ridiculous that I don't have to have those conversations. And the fact that I'm just gonna, like, the idea that I would just shy away from having any topics of conversation around that just to make myself comfortable or make myself feel better, or like it doesn't exist if I don't acknowledge it.
Right.
That is
So
a very privileged thing.
it is. And for, if someone's watching this that is maybe they don't know how to talk to their kids about racism, or maybe you think you don't need to talk to your kids about racism. I hear a lot like, I don't want, why are we making our kids feel bad? My kids have never felt bad when we talk about racism. They don't feel bad about themselves, but I know they view the system and the world around them much differently
Mm-hmm.
if they don't, had they not known about it. How about you, your experience in conversations with your kiddos?
Yeah, I mean, my kids are 7 and 4, and I've been a single mom for 2 years, so I've been talking to them about this for 2 years as we've been, reading different things, and I've had, a I don't want to say the word control because I don't like that in a co-parenting situation, but I had the ability to make better choices about the books that they were reading and more intentional choices. That's the word, not control, intentional. Um, but like for us, it was just they have, their dad has a Black friend. We have a Black friend, and so we're talking like some people treat Uncle Anthony totally differently just because of the color of his skin. And like I don't hide when George Floyd happened, or when any of the other things happen. And if the kids ask why I'm sad, I'll tell them because someone was shot because of their skin tone.
Mhm.
And we're just it's a part of life, and so it's gonna be a topic of conversation. It's just unfortunately how I see it. And I want them to be aware. And we have all sorts of conversations about like, oh, that kid has a different color skin. That's cool. What do you like about them? Like, we're going to see color, but we're going to like, I think I get my parents' intention with like being colorblind and not seeing color, but I want my kids to go a step further and be like,
Yeah.
I see that you are at higher risk of being treated differently or unfairly. And so I'm going to use my privilege to make sure that you're not.
Right. And not to mention, like, I also hear a lot of people being like, it's not my job to talk about racism. You're white. It's your job to talk about racism. Like,
Mhm.
we create, the Caucasian race created racism.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean,
Yeah, and unfortunately, I mean, like we were talking earlier about Roe versus Wade, like we have to have everybody speaking up to make sure that equality can remain. And we're not anywhere close to equitable yet. The wage gap
no.
is still there, and the gender pay gap is still there. Oh, okay, sorry.
Oh, hi, Zoe.
Come here. Come here. No, don't eat my computer. Come here.
Oh, okay. And I have some comments coming in through Facebook. So my friend Adrian, and they're not showing up here again.
Ah,
I tell you. Anyways,
okay, come here.
Adrian says, as a veteran homeschooling mom of 4 years, I cannot thank you enough. There
Oh,
is nothing out there like this. It is so needed. I will be sharing this with my co-op.
that's
So
awesome. Thank you so much.
so let's talk about how does the Radical Agenda Planner work? Let's talk about it.
So the planner is an actual planner, and it has a monthly, month at a glance. It has a 2-page weekly layout. But what makes it unique is that it has a lot of dates scattered throughout the 2-page weekly layout of important dates in history, in either Black and Brown history, American history, or members of the LGBTQ community history. And a lot of it isn't necessarily talked about in school, taught in school, or it might be whitewashed. So, and then every month there is a monthly learning moment, and it's a few paragraphs about the same kinds of topics. One thing that I'm super excited about is in the academic version, I added QR codes to the bottom of every monthly learning moment. And so you can scan that and it'll take you to the website where there's extra resources. So, like other, the websites that I used for my research, books that would be helpful to read, documentaries, all that kind of stuff. So you can continue your learning
That's
throughout
so
the year.
great. That's so great. I'm gonna order a copy myself once I get off this with you, because this is just it's so needed. And um with my daughter, Peyton doesn't like reading, so otherwise I would have done it with him too. But Georgia loves to read, and every the books I order, I want her to be able to get a different perspective. So there's an author. I think she's like 14 and she has autism. So we've ordered some of her books. We've ordered books on Black female leaders in the country. We've Ruby Bridges. That one really clicked with her. I know it was like she was just very, very indulged in that. So um what's been your favorite thing with your kiddos, as far as you kind of see that light bulb moment with them when you're having these conversations and they're like, whoa, I didn't see it that way. Do
Yeah.
you have something you'd like to share on that?
Yeah, I mean, my kids have, I've been really intentional about like trying to piece everything together. And so they have a context for how everything is working at the same time. So, one of the things that was really fun was so the website that I have, the radicalagenda.com, is book reviews of all the books that we're reading. And so it's organized by biographies and by topics. And so you can look up like all the biographies that we're reading. And one of them was on Georgia Gilmore, who I didn't know who she was until we read this book. And that's been a lot of my experience. As if I was homeschooled and I thought I had a really good history education and overview and everything. But I am learning so much about all these people that I'd never heard of before. And so Georgia Gilmore helped when Rosa Parks started the Montgomery bus boycott. She helped raise money by selling baked goods, kind of like under the table. They called themselves the group from nowhere, which was great. And so, but we were talking in the book, Martin Luther King Jr. is one of her frequent customers and friends. And so then we're like, hey guys, do you remember reading the book about Martin Luther King Jr. that was written by his sister? Do you remember reading that one? Yeah, well, remember when we were talking about the speech that he gave afterwards, the I Have a Dream speech, and we watched that on YouTube? Do you remember who the president was at that point? That was John F. Kennedy. And he shows up in the book that we just read called Hidden Figures. And so it was really cool to see their light bulbs, like, oh, all of this is happening all at once. And then there have just been other comments like, my 7-year-old, stop that. People can't see. Come here. Oh, now she's on my head.
She's good. She's good.
So there have been other comments. Like we were reading a book about, what is it? Wong Kim Ark or Kim? I think it's Wong Kim Ark. He was a Japanese American who was born here in San Francisco, or Chinese American, I'm sorry, who was born here in San Francisco, and they experienced so much racism during the gold rush that his parents moved back to China. And he went to go visit them. And even though he was born here and he was an American, he was illegally detained for 4 months because they, didn't believe him. And he had to fight all the way to the Supreme Court for his freedom to exist in America as an American citizen. And so it was interesting. We turned the page and there's the story about him before the Supreme Court. And I looked at my oldest and I was like, hey, buddy, does this represent America? And he goes, Mommy, they're all white men. I'm like, bingo. And that happened the same week that Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson was confirmed. And so that was really cool. I'm like, the Supreme Court doesn't look like that anymore, buddy. It's so much better. And he was like, that's really cool, Mom.
And how important is representation? I think it is so huge. So huge.
I mean, just think about, like, I got excited when I permed my hair and dyed it bright red. I'm like, oh my God, I look like Merida from Brave now. Like, I'm 33 and I'm excited about representation in a fictional character. Like, of course people are going to be excited to see themselves. I have like eyelash in my eye. They're going to be excited to see themselves represented, especially it's so needed when people are making laws that determine your freedoms or lack thereof in this country. Like, we have to be diverse in order to be fair, or even try to tell ourselves that we're a democracy of, you know, a bunch of different kinds of Americans.
Right. And one thing I've been really digging into lately is the school to prison pipeline. And you know, there's no reason why there's no reason why my child should make it through the school system and into adulthood and society easier than it is for someone else, based solely on how they look, the opportunities that they're given. And I think in order for our kids our kids are the future of our country, right?
Yeah.
So if we want things to be better, certainly not going to do the things that we've been doing, because it's not freaking working.
Right. Well, and like, I was also reading, I can't remember if it was Ibram X. Kendi or if it was Emmanuel Acho, but I listened to a bunch of audiobooks. And one of them was saying that, like, children with darker skin are statistically more likely, even in kindergarten, when they're acting out and being kids, to be labeled as aggressive, angry, you know, just like, oh, well, he's just angry. No, he's a 6-year-old kid who needs to move. You know, like, my 7-year-old has so much energy that literally everyone who ever watches them is like, they're energetic. But it's not seen, you know, normally as aggressive because of his skin tone.
Right. Yeah. Oh gosh, I could probably have you on like weekly, and we could
Just
go all over
all this stuff.
Yeah. And you know, I used to be so worried about, like, oh my gosh, I don't give a hoot about people's feelings anymore when it comes to this topic.
No.
You know, we just gotta step up, and people are tired. People are very, very tired, and people are terrified. And, you know, if we can raise our kids and give them what U.S. history really was.
Yeah.
I mean, both. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think part of the reason that I wanted to do the Radical Agenda was to be a resource so that people can educate themselves. Like, we can't make a change. I, as a white woman, it makes I need to use my privilege I don't know what you want. Can you wait for just a few minutes, please? Thank you. I think he just decided he doesn't want pizza, which is weird.
Table that, son.
We'll figure that out in a minute. But like, I want to use my privilege so that people can see, like, you turn the page and you're just like, oh, that happened. I didn't know that. And like, oh, that's also really bad. Like, and there are some good things too. Like the academic planner now has Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson being confirmed to the Supreme Court. Like, there are good things. Pete Buttigieg getting confirmed into cabinet. Like, all the good things that happen. But I wanted to make sure that people knew just the extent. And of course, it's not all at once. You wouldn't be able to write anything in the pages if it's all at once. So every year it's going to be different things and different monthly learning moments and all this stuff. And it's sad that I have so much to write about that this can go on forever.
Yeah, it truly, yeah, there's always, and we're always going to be learning. Not for 1 second, like I am passionate and I want my voice to be loud, but I know that I'm going to mess up. I know that I have things to learn, and I know that, I mean, I'm constantly correcting myself. I recently just like saw drag queens in a brand new way that I've never seen before. Like I was associating drag with sex, and that's not what drag is. And so after learning more about it, it's like I'm Googling drag shows to take Georgia to, like
Yeah.
all we have to do is just be open to be in that really uncomfortable space for a minute, realize that, okay, I'm not responsible for that, but I'm here now and can make the change and help my kids do that too.
Yeah. And I mean, I've been called out several times, as in 2020, as I'm actively learning and like seeing all these problems. And, people were like, that's not the best way to phrase that. White
Mhm.
women cry all the time and it doesn't do anything. Like, what are you actually going to do? And so, I mean, we're all going to be in that place. And I think I put like a proactive, like, this is not completely comprehensive and there's always going to be more to learn, like just in the front cover of the Radical Agenda Planner, just because like I can't know everything. I don't know everything yet. I'm still very actively learning and trying to educate myself, but I'm also trying to actively educate myself, and I want
Right.
to provide those resources for other people too.
It's awesome. It's genius. Our world needs it. I can't wait to get my hands on it and dig in because it's gonna be so good. What did you say the website was again?
It's theradicalagenda.com.
Theradicalagenda.com. Okay.
Yes, and it
I'm trying
has
to
to
pull
have
it up.
the in front of it because after I purchased the domain, I realized that radicalagenda.com is already purchased by a very angry right-wing man, who last I checked hadn't posted since shortly after January of last year.
Oh, what's the coincidence in that?
I don't know. But yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, okay. So it's not theradicalagenda.com?
Radical Agenda. Yes, the angry one doesn't have the V.
The or
Yes,
the.
THE. Yeah. Same as the planner.
Got it. Okay. Well, my computer is being so I'm going to pull up your Instagram real quick.
Okay.
Or would you? And then we're going to look at it. And so everyone can go follow you and get their, I also, thank you. There we go. I forget about our secret chat here. The boarding school investigation that's coming out has really opened my eyes, and where I work, we have conversations about D&I initiatives every Friday. And so today they were talking about Native American language and how, um, colonization, people came in and said, you can't speak this language, and just forced English on indigenous people of this country. And to this day, people are like, speak English. It's like English wasn't even the native language here until our white asses got off the boat, like.
You have to press 1 for English. Because other people live here.
It blows my mind. But that's
I
why
work in a hospital. You need transfers for everything.
Yes. Like people, in healthcare, especially, like, if someone doesn't understand what you're saying to them, what's the point?
Right. You can't get consent from someone who speaks Arabic if you are trying to get them to understand English. I'm not
Right.
signing something in Arabic. I have no idea what it says.
Exactly. Okay, I'm working on it here. Multitasking is not my oh my goodness. Now where did it go?
I don't know.
Here we
There it
go.
is.
Okay, so the radical agenda. So here we are. This is Amanda's website. Go check it out. I'll post it in the comments right now too. So go check her out. I can't wait. I'm also on the D&I committee for our school, and we've been trying to be like, what can we give parents who don't know where to start?
For
Like,
elementary, for sure. I'm eventually going to be expanding it and reading things on my own so that I can, add in middle school and high school. My merch line is going to include that picture there.
I love that.
Thanks.
And the pledge. Can we talk about the pledge real quick before we end this? Like,
Sure.
people are very upset about bringing our history, the real history, into our schools. Yet our kids stand and say the pledge to this flag, talking about justice for all and liberty and God, and it's just like, not everyone, one nation under God. Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, no, and that was added later too. That's not part of the original thing. So if we're going to go for our originalist here, we need to get that one out.
We do. Yeah. Ugh. I love this. I'm so excited. There, you can get the planner, check it out. You've got a blog. I'll be reading that as well. Thank you for doing this and coming on and talking to me about it. I could go on for hours and hours with you, but you're doing an amazing thing. And I am 100% like standing behind you and want to like scream from the mountaintops. So
Thank you.
I'm so glad that you reached out and were like, let's talk about what I'm doing, because this really fuels me. All of my guests fuel me, but this is something that just really tugged me an extra bit. So I'm very, very excited.
Awesome. Me too. Thank you so much for having me. I really had fun.
Yes, me too. And so, yes, you can find Amanda on Facebook, the Radical Agenda Planner. You can find her on Instagram and then her website, and I'll put everything in the show notes. Are you okay if people have questions to reach out to you about the planner? Is that all right?
Yeah, sure.
And I can't wait to see this thing blow up, because it's coming. So I'm
Thank you.
so happy for you.
Thank you. Thank you. Me too. It's so much fun to work on. Honestly, like, this is the one thing that I'm never like, oh, I have to work on this. Like, I have skipped lunch at work, and I always have lunch with my friends. And I've been like, guys, I got to do this stuff. Peace. And,
Yeah.
I love my friends, but it's so exciting to see all of this just like come together and kind of morph and do its own thing. Like, the planner came first, and then, oh, I should probably do a website, and oh, we should do book reviews. And then I created the graphic, and I was like, that belongs on a hoodie. And
yes,
now I'm
doing
I'm doing the clothing line, and like, I don't know.
It's a passion.
I have no idea.
It is a passion, and that's what it's all about. Like, our passion should not be work. It should be something that lights you up, and as hard and as heavy and frustrating as it can be someday, it's so worth it. And that's why we just keep pushing forward.
Yes. And I also want, for anybody who buys the planner, a portion of the proceeds is going to go to different organizations every year. This year is the Equal Justice Initiative. If you've ever seen the movie Just Mercy with Michael B. Jordan, who's my favorite actor, and I watch everything that he's on. That's actually why I watched that movie in the first place, just because his face was on it. Oh my God, it is such an incredible, powerful story. and the other one is the Trevor Project. So a portion of proceeds are going to both of those this year, because these are not my stories. So I don't feel comfortable, obviously it takes a lot to create a website and host everything. And so I need to be able to recoup those, but I'm not looking to have my millions made on someone else's stories, especially as a white woman. That just feels icky.
Yeah, I know. I'm the same way. No, I appreciate you saying that too, because there's a lot of conversation about that too, like white people capitalizing off of Black trauma. And it's important to recognize, like, you can't do that. It's not your story, but I love the Innocence Project. That I just love, like, I love law. I should have gone to school to be a lawyer is what I should have done. So that is very exciting. And I'm so happy for you.
Thank you.
And if there's anything I can do to support you and help you and hype you up, let me know. If you want to get over on TikTok,
do a review on Instagram or, TikTok or Amazon.
Yes.
Those reviews.
Get it out there. All right. Well, thank you so much, Amanda. And Zoe, thank you as well. I hope you all have it.
What?
Who said my name? All right. Well, you take care and have a good weekend.
Thank you. You too.